Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, even more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, in Kansas, in Georgia, in Missouri, in Texas, Chicago, Illinois, Arkansas, and California, in New York, in Canada, in Pennsylvania, in Fiji Island, Mexico, Spain, Africa, Kenya, Zambia, Pakistan, to the United Kingdom, to our brethren in Australia, and also to our brethren in Malaysia, and to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad. Greetings. May the good Lord bless you, my dear brothers and sisters. This is our special episode number 23 on our last final warning message just prior to the close of provision. And this video is even more especially dedicated to all my fellow beloved Shepherd's Rod believers. We love you, brethren. And I would like to read to you this statement in to us R 258, saying, "My brethren, these words are not against you, for it is God speaking through His word of truth to save you." 2SR 258. So, my brethren, these words are not against you, for it is God speaking through His word of truth to save you from the bottomless pit. Will you not let Him work for you and for His people? Will you not be His sheep? 2SR page 258. I really feel this statement, and 10 Symbolic Code number 7, page 3 and 4. 10 Symbolic Code number 7, page 3 and 4, saying, "I hardly know how to explain this most vital subject, by which the Spirit of God, through His holy word, has opened the avenue of correspondence." I would like to read again. 10 Symbolic Code number 7, page 3 and 4. "I hardly know how to explain this most vital subject, by which the Spirit of God, through His holy word, has opened the avenue of correspondence. It is not difficult to express the idea I wish to convey to you, but how to say it, fearing a chance of misunderstanding or diminishing the truth God has so graciously revealed to His people, realizing that this is dealing with a matter of life and death." So, that is really what I feel, brothers and sisters. So, I would like to read this reading in answerer number 1 on page 9. "Our deep concern, therefore, is that there awaken an interest in you, dear Laodicean, to go to the bottom of the matter, to make sure of your salvation. So will you not be sensible and courteous enough to sit down with this light bearer in humble, impartial, prayerful study, which must repay you many, many times over what you put into it? Remember, there is a divine law that converts every honest effort into joy, a personal experience with God, and eternal life. So will you not start now to measure yourself no longer by what you think you are or will be, but by what the Lord says you are and must be? So, pleading with all the obedience, I would like to read this statement in answerer number 5, page 29. And now the only safe and sane procedure is to read closely every page of the solemn message contained in the Shepherd's Rod publications. Let not a line escape your attention. Study every word carefully and prayerfully. Be earnest and diligent in your perusal of truth, and prove all things. Hold fast that which is good. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21. And here in 1SR, page 236, 1SR page 236, it says, requesting our brethren to investigate the contents in the said article by a close scrutiny, earnest prayer, and faith in Him who is merciful, and more willing that we should know the truth of our salvation than we are ourselves, who would reveal His word to all His children and unmask error for the good on both sides. Now, at this time, I will try my best with the help of God to explain one of the important event, solemn, very solemn event that occur in the heavenly sanctuary. The irrevocable decision. First of all, brothers and sisters, we need to base our faith on the word what is written, not by assumption. Here in timely greetings, I would like to read to you. In 2TG 34, page 19, it says, your choice, of course, would have to be, again, based on facts, not on assumption. 2TG 34, page 19. So our choice, of course, if we want to be certain of our salvation, it must be based on facts, not on assumption. And what does it mean by the word assumption? Thinking something, you assume something by which there is no proof at all. So our decision, our conclusion, must be based on facts. And of course, the facts must be according to the golden bowl. Here in track number 9, page 6, it says, in considering the several scriptures bearing on this point and on the kindred points in question, we must base our conclusions solely on the weight of evidence, so that we may not only know all the truth, but also teach nothing but the truth. Track number 9, page 6. So, our conclusion or our decision must be based solely on the weight of evidences. In answerer number 1, page 77, it says, the weight of evidence is the only fair and final criterion worthy of a Christian who must ever make an investigation for himself concerning purported truth. So, the weight of evidence is the only fair and final criterion worthy of a Christian who must ever make an investigation for himself concerning purported truth. So, brothers and sisters, that is the admonition given by the voice of inspiration. That we need to base our conclusion, our decision, according to the word it is written, on the weight of evidences. So, I invite my fellow Shepherd's Rod believers, as stated here in track number 7, page 5, saying, believing that most of you will, before helping the one side or the other fire its guns, do as did Nathanael, according to John chapter 1, verse 45 to 51, follow the example which the Lord has set before us, and respond to duty's challenge to investigate, to come and see. We trust that you will, in the ensuing pages, give unbiased consideration to the facts set forth. So, we will try to share to you all the facts concerning this irrevocable decision to be pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary. Now, first of all, I would like to read Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, page 190 and page 191. So, Volume 2, page 190 and 191. It says, Jesus has left us word. Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. We are waiting and watching for the return of the Master, who is to bring the morning, lest coming suddenly he find us sleeping. What time is here referred to? Now, I would like to read first the verse by which this paragraph had been taken, that is in Mark, we know that is in Mark 13. So, do not forget that. That is in Mark chapter 13, verse 35, 36, and 37. It says, "Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning." Verse 36, "Lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch." So that is Mark 13, 35, 36, and 37. So let us go back again to Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, page 190. Then it says, "What time is here referred to?" So, pointing to Mark 13, verse 35, 36 to 37, it says, what time is here referred to? Then it says, not to the revelation of Christ in the clouds of heaven, to find a people asleep. You see? To find a people asleep. No, but to his return from his ministration in the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary, when he lays off his priestly attire and clothed himself with garments of vengeance, and when the mandate goes forth, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still, and he which is filthy, let him be filthy still, and he that is righteous, let him be righteous still, and he that is holy, let him be holy still. This subject, brethren, is a life and death matter. So, what we need to do is to study it seriously. Now, the vision that was shown by God to Sister White, that in that time, when the mandate goes forth, the irrevocable decision saying, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still, and he which is filthy, let him be filthy still, and he that is righteous, let him be righteous still, and he that is holy, let him be holy still. According to this reading, that is the time when Jesus Christ will return to the most holy place. And then, he will lay off his priestly attire, and then he will clothe himself with the garments of vengeance. Now, I think no one would disagree. Let us define first the word return. First of all, I would like to quote 2SR 118, saying, this grammatical rule is followed in the scriptures, and it is one way to recognize present truth. And also in 1SR 244, it says, it is wonderful to note 1SR 244. Let's read that statement. It says here that it is wonderful to note the inspiration of the scriptures. Perfect they are when their appointed time is come. Only at such an occasion are the scriptures grammatically correct. And in 3 Symbolic Code, number 7, page 4, it says, 3 Symbolic Code, number 7, page 4, You yourself know that such careless and thoughtless interpretations, which pay no attention to language, and which obey neither rule nor logic, are not inspired, but are private, and thus inevitably false. 3 Symbolic Code number 7, page 4. So, those who do not pay attention to the grammatical rule, 100% that must be private, and inevitably such interpretation is false. Now, let us now carefully watch the words used by inspiration. It is very important, as admonished unto us by the shepherd's rod. So let us define first the word return. So let us find the definition given by the dictionary concerning the word return. And we know that that is a verb. The word return, that is a verb. It says return, that is a verb. To go back. So, to come back. So that is the definition of the word return. To go back to a place second time or third time. So, that's what it means by the word return. Now, let me read to you 2 Symbolic Code number 7, page 2 Symbolic Code 7 and 8, page 10. 2 Symbolic Code 7 and 8, page 10. Hence, so 2 Symbolic Code number 7 and 8, page 10. Hence, as there are no useless words in either of the writings, those who desire to know the truth must carefully mark every word. Otherwise, they will never comprehend the truth, and as a consequence, they will be driven by the winds as the waves of the sea, until the wind cease blowing, probation closes, and they be left to sink down in their sins as do the waves in the sea. 2 Symbolic Code 7 and 8, page 10. So, in October 22, 1844, that is the first time by which Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place. So the word return cannot be applied in October 22, 1844. Because the word return, meaning to go back again, and such word return indicate that Jesus Christ left the most holy place. That is why it's very important to understand the entire proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. Now, for example, here in early writings, page 42, it says, this door, early writings, page 42, this door was not open until the mediation of Jesus was finished in the holy place of the sanctuary in 1844. Then Jesus rose up and shut the door of the holy place and opened the door into the most holy and passed within the second veil, where he now stands by the ark and where the faith of Israel now reaches. So, The question is that, what mediation of Christ that was finished in the holy place in October 22, 1844? And secondly, who are they, the people, being mediated by Jesus Christ? So, this is very important, brothers and sisters, in this study. That is why the 144,000, they are those who follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. Now, I would like to read to you the great controversy. Here in the great controversy on page 400, the great controversy, page 419, it says, God commanded, I would like to read the first portion. It says, such was the work that went on day by day throughout the year. The sins of Israel were thus transferred to the sanctuary, and a special work became necessary for their removal. God commanded that an atonement be made for each of the sacred apartments. And then the quotation is Leviticus 16, verse 16 and verse 19. So, the voice of inspiration is very plain that is God's divine command that there must be atonement in the holy place and atonement in the most holy place. Atonement be made for each of the sacred apartments, holy place and most holy place. And according to that reading, atonement means removal. So there are only two removal. The removal of the names of the wicked, that is in the holy place, and the removal of the sins of the righteous, that is in the most holy place. So that is very plain. I will no longer elaborate that portion at this time. But just to explain that there are two removals as God commanded. Here in tract number 3, page 9, it says, for in the investigative judgment, the books are opened, and the deeds done in the flesh are brought to light for a final reckoning. Before the Ancient of Days, all who have stood fast to the end will then forever have their sins blotted from the books, and their names retained therein, while all who are not overcomers will then forever have their sins retained in the books, and their names blotted therefrom. So, let us distinctly separate the word blotted and the word blotted out. Who will blot the names of the wicked? Jesus Christ. Who will blot out the names of the wicked? The angels. Now, I would like to read this statement in tract number 3 on page, let us read tract number 3 on page 73. It says, consequently, tract number 3, page 73, consequently, the Day of Atonement was a day of judgment, as it is still commonly called by the Jews, and by the token it was founded as the type of the great antitypical Day of Atonement, investigative judgment, the day in which the Lord will blot from His book the names of all sinners. Now, it says, and cut off from the congregation of His people all whose names are not in the book. Now, let us ponder deeply, brothers and sisters. That's why what I'm saying is that what we need is to study. We have the shepherd's rod, so we need now to study. Now, according to that reading, it is God who will blot, not blot out. It is God who will blot the names of all sinners. And since it is God who will blot the names, God cannot be mistaken. There is no reason for God to blot that names if that names are righteous. The voice of inspiration says, God will blot all the names of all sinners. So, what we need to do is only to understand the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. And whatever the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary, the same with all the created beings in the heavenly sanctuary, they were satisfied. Meaning, there is no such occurrence by which there is no justice, because God is a God of justice. So I would like to read this reading in 2SR page 200. The scripture quoted proves that the entire universe is satisfied with the love of God and the righteousness of Christ. Remember, it is pointing to the judicial proceedings that takes place in the heavenly sanctuary. That all, or the entire universe, all of them are satisfied that the entire proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary is full of love, full of mercy. He is a God of justice, my dear brothers and sisters. Now, let us now investigate closely. So, the Spur prophecy already declared that in October 22, 1844, there was a mediation of Christ that was finished. That is very plain. Early writings, page 42. So the question, who are they that had been mediated by Jesus Christ in the holy place prior to October 22, 1844? The mediation of Jesus Christ in the holy place, of course, only to the righteous. What is the mediation of Jesus Christ in the holy place? Jesus Christ mediate the names of the righteous, that such names will not be blotted out. That is the mediation of Jesus Christ in the holy place. Whereas, the mediation of Jesus Christ in the most holy place is to mediate or to plead God the Father so that the sins of the righteous will be blotted out. So let us distinctly separate Christ's mediatorial work in the holy place and Christ's mediatorial work in the most holy place. Now here in tract number 3, page 18, it says, hence, his mediatorial work began first in the holy, then in the most holy. So it says, hence, his mediatorial work began first in the holy, then in the most holy. Now, brothers and sisters, since we already established with absolute fact that there was a mediation of Christ in the holy place that was finished in October 22, 1844. And what is that mediation of Jesus Christ? He blotted all the names of all sinners to the generation represented by the temple. Now, I would like to read here in tract number 5. Let's read tract number 5 on page 109. It says, the temple and the altar, inanimate objects, must characterize
two classes of inanimate saints, the two classes of dead saints. You see, brothers and sisters? Because in the upper portion it says, and as the measuring is figurative of the same work, then it leads to the conclusion that the temple, the altar, and them that worship therein must figuratively represent the three classes to be judged. How many classes to be judged? There are only three. And who are they? The temple, the altar, and the worshippers. Who are they, the temple? Those who died from Adam up to 1844. But to be more specific, the temple represents the first 5 seals, whereas the altar represent the 6th seal. And they are those who will be especially resurrected on Daniel chapter 12. Now let us read track number 5. So let us read here, track number 5 on page 109 and page 110. It says, thus the temple, the first and the largest object, must represent the first and largest body of righteous dead, those from Adam's time to the beginning of the judgment in 1844. While the altar, a special and a smaller object, must represent a special and smaller body of righteous dead, the righteous who die from 1844 on and who are to come up in the special resurrection of Daniel 12 verse 2. Early Writings, page 285. Now here, brothers and sisters, we can easily discern, so I would like to show to you. Although, if you want explanation on more detail, brothers and sisters, just tell us. Because at this time, I want to focus our attention to that irrevocable decision. Now, October 22, 1844, that is the time Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place. So, please copy. But, according to early writings, there was Christ's mediatorial work in the holy place that was finished. And that is pointing to the temple. Beginning from 1833, what is the work of Christ here in 1833 to 1844? Blotting all the names of the wicked under the first 5 seals. For example, this is the first seal, second, third, fourth, then fifth. So all the names of the wicked on the first seal blotted. Then after the first seal, second seal. And then after the second seal, third seal. Then after the third seal, fourth seal. And after the fourth seal, fifth seal. And it was finished in October 22, 1844. Why is it that it is in absolute importance that Jesus Christ need to blot the names of the wicked? Because if Jesus Christ will not blot the names of the wicked, the angels, there must be possibility that they will commit mistakes whose names to be blotted out. And in order for the angels not to commit mistake, Jesus Christ blotted the names of the wicked. And it is the angels who will blot out. So, this reading in 2TG number 11, I would like to read the statement. Page 5, 2TG number 11, page 5. This cleansing work belongs only to the angels of heaven, and this they will do in the time of harvest, after being commanded to do so, not before. So I would like to read again 2TG number 11, page 5. 2TG number 11, page 5. It says here, this cleansing work belongs only to the angels of heaven. So whether the cleansing work is in the heavenly sanctuary or on the earthly sanctuary, it belongs only to the angels of heaven. And this they will do in the time of harvest, after being commanded to do so, not before. Now, concerning the harvest, we know that it is divided: harvest that pertains to the dead and harvest that pertains to the living. Now, here in track number 3, let me read to you. Track number 3 on page 42 and page 43. In both of these parables, Christ is sounding the forewarning that the investigative judgment will take place in the time called harvest, which is the end of the world, the time in which the 2,300 days culminate. Track number 3, page 42 and page 43. So, when does the 2,300 years culminate? October 22, 1844. So, the blotting out of names began in October 22, 1844. But the angels, they will blot out the names, those names that have already blotted by Jesus Christ. So, there is no more possibility that the angels will commit mistake, because they will only blot out the names, those names that had been blotted by Jesus Christ. Why is it that Jesus Christ need to blot the names of the wicked? Because the work of the angels is in the holy place. And Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place from October 22, 1844. Now, brothers and sisters, on from October 22, 1844 up to May 19, 2011, in Bible calendar, that was October 10, 2012. The work of Jesus Christ in the most holy place, which is blotting out of sins, the sins, blotting out of sins. Whose sins? Those who will be resurrected at the second visible coming of Jesus Christ. It was finished. Then Jesus Christ entered to the holy place on May 20, 2011. Now, brothers and sisters, here in the first mediation of Jesus Christ in the holy place took place only 10 years, from 1833 to 1844. Why 10 years? Because it was illustrated in the ceremonial system that before the high priest will enter the most holy place, there are 10 days Feast of Trumpets to inform everyone that the high priest will enter to the most holy place. But in prophecy, one day equivalent to 1 year, that was 10 years. And so this study from 2011 plus 10, 2021, 10 years. So, since 2011, Jesus Christ was already in the holy place. Jesus Christ was no longer in the most holy place since May 20, 2011. So, since May 20, hope that you are providing a diagram. So, since May 20, 2011, Jesus Christ is already in the holy place. And that is why the word return Brothers and sisters, after Christ's mediatorial work in the holy place will be finished, now we will show to you how do we know that Christ's mediatorial work in the holy place was already finished in March 27, 2021. Or in Bible calendar, that is October 10, 2022. So, I hope you will listen carefully, brothers and sisters. To repeat again, brethren, what we need to do is to sit down and then study closely. Because 100% this message cometh from heaven. And brethren, it is very critical and very dangerous to criticize the message that cometh from heaven. Now, I would like to focus our attention now to the irrevocable decision. Before we will go to that very controversial date, I would like to use the term, very controversial date, March 27, 2021. So I would like to place here. From May 20, 2011, up to March 27, 2021. In Bible calendar, this is October 10, 2022. Now at this time, I will not explain how do we get such date that Jesus Christ was in the holy place in May 20, 2011. Because if I will focus in that portion, then I could no longer focus to our subject, irrevocable decision. Let us focus first to the irrevocable decision. And as I've said, this date is very controversial. But before, brothers and sisters, focusing to that date, I would like first to remind to you the experience of Galileo Galilei. Now let us read tract number 5, page 85. It says, once men fought the astronomical findings of Galileo. They even forced him to recant his position that the earth was round. But their fighting the truth did not make the earth flat. So that is very plain. I would like to read again, tract number 5, page 85. Once men fought the astronomical findings of Galileo, they even forced him to recant his position that the earth was round, but their fighting the truth did not make the earth flat. So, what is the present truth lesson? The present truth lesson is that truth is truth and sense is sense. Let us have them both. 1 TG 6:32. Because there are only two things. March 27, 2021 is either truth or there is no truth in it. There is no neutral position. I would like to repeat again. March 27, 2021, that date which is very controversial in the Bible calendar, that is October 10, 2022, by which we fully declared that that is the last and the final day of atonement in the holy place, the blotting out of names, that is either truth or there is no truth in it. But, brothers and sisters, look at the divine principle given by God in the Shepherd's Rod publications. I would like to read to you. I'm hoping that we will help each other. It says here, 1TG number 50, page 25. It says, we see that if we do not fall in love with the truth, deception is inevitable. 1TG number 50, page 25. We see that if we do not fall in love with the truth, deception is inevitable. No, none are deceived by coming in contact with error. For we are in contact with it anyway from the time we are born to the time we die. But everyone who does not love the truth is sure to be deceived, regardless what he may do to avoid it. And the other statement is found in tract number 3 on page 10 and 11. It says, consequently, the greatest danger of the people has not been their listening to error, but rather their rejecting present truth. I would like to read again, tract number 3, page 10 and 11. Consequently, the greatest danger of the people has not been their listening to error, but rather their rejecting present truth. Now, for example, if this message is error, there is no danger at all. Even though you listen to this message, there is no danger at all. But what if this message cometh from heaven, this is the very present truth? Here comes the greatest danger. Even in tract number 5, B.T. Hotep says, tract number 5 on page 7, tract number 5, page 7, no one is lost for believing a false interpretation of a prophecy before the truth of it is revealed, provided the false interpretation does not draw him away from some other truth. You see, no one is lost for believing a false interpretation of a prophecy. But everybody is lost if they reject the true interpretation. The same with the statement in 1TG number 11. I think 2TG rather. 2TG number 11. On page 10, it says, at the times when new truths had been introduced, millions have lost out only because they were too well satisfied with what they had. They saw need of nothing better, or else they were too proud to accept unpopular truth from one of God's appointed messengers. Thus it is that when God sends a message, rather than it being to them a step upward towards salvation, it has been and still is to many a step downward toward damnation. 2TG number 11 on page 10. Can you post that statement? I no longer remember. It's saying duty challenge or to investigate. Or I think that statement it says, is it heaven's duty challenge to investigate? Brethren, let us now investigate before everything is too late. I think this question is very commendable, and it seems that this statement is definitely more applied this year, 2021. I remember, brothers and sisters, the statement in 2SR 200. Let's read 2SR page 200. It says here, the statement given by the voice of inspiration, that it seems, it says 256 in 2SR, it is remarkable to note the perfect grammatical order of the words at the time of their application, clearly dividing the word of truth as though it were written just at the time the prophetic words are revealed. And that statement, as I look at answerer number 5, page 30, it seems that it is really applied this year. I would like to read. It says, why need of a judgment? Ponder deeply this statement. Answerer number 5, page 30. Why need of a judgment? I cannot see the need of a judgment. Why should we be judged after we are saved? You see, the question is really, it seems applied to all the inquiries concerning that a very controversial date, March 27, 2021. But in Bible calendar, that is October 10, page 2022. And you might ask, why should we be judged after we are saved? Now, let us apply first to the dead. When such person died, of course, God knows it already if that person is saved or lost. Do you believe that? At the moment such person died, God knows it already. When Adam died, when Cain died, when Abel died, all humanity who died, God knows it already if they were saved or they were lost. Because that is the question here. And he is asking if after, for example, Apostle Paul says, that is an indication that he knoweth that he is saved. And the questioner is asking, why is it that there is still judgment in 1844? But that is pertaining to the dead. When it pertains to the living, you might ask, if all the names of the wicked had been blotted out in March 27, 2021, although, brothers and sisters, at this time, March 27, 2021, at midnight, all the names of the wicked are already blotted by Jesus Christ. Now, at this time, we will study when does the angels will blot out all the names of the wicked. But they will blot out all the names of the wicked. That was already blotted. by Jesus Christ. Now, someone will ask a question. If at that time, the names that have been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life are the names of the 144,000 living saints, why is it that you are still preaching? Why is it that you are still proclaiming a message? I think the first answer that we could give is that because we do not know. We do not know who are they. Who are they, the 144,000? Now, if you will say, why is it that you are still giving message after March 27, 2021? Since you say that our names had been blotted out. Did I say that? I never say. Who are the names that had been blotted out? I just base our conclusion to the word it is written. The names that had been blotted out are the names of the sinners. And me, myself, I would like to use the term impenitent sinners or unrepentant sinners. But me of myself, how could I know who they are? Only the angels. Because they are witness. They can see the names that had been blotted. And those that had been blotted, when they will be commanded by Jesus Christ to blot out, then they will begin to blot out the names. Brothers and sisters, so only the angels knew who are they. What we understand is the prophecy that for sure in that final great day of atonement, the only names that had been left are 144,000. Now think thoroughly, brothers and sisters. You yourself can decide who you are. Nobody. Only God and you. Now, I would like to read again the statement in answerer number 5. It says, I cannot see the need of a judgment. Why should we be judged after we are saved? Now, if we will apply it to the living, why should we be judged after our names had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life? Because the word saved must be pertains to the righteous. Answer, that the Bible teaches of a coming judgment, no one can deny. We therefore need only to give the reason for it. So, at this time, we need only to give the reason. According to the shepherd's rod, of course, our reasons must be based on the word it is written. Now, Let us now carefully investigate and study. Let me read to you the old symbolic code. So, let's read the statement. One symbolic code, number 8, page 10. One symbolic code, number 8, page 10. I will just read the statement. The judgment of the living, great controversy, 490, 491. I would like to read again. One symbolic code, number 8, page 10. The judgment of the living. Then it says, great controversy, 490 and 491. And also volume 9, 266 and 267. So, that two passages, the shepherd's rod says, that is the judgment of the living. Now, let us read first the great controversy. 490. The great controversy. Remember, the shepherd's rod says that that is judgment of the living. The great controversy, 490 and 491. So, let's read. It says, the righteous, so let's read the great controversy, 490. The righteous and the wicked will still be living. So, the statement, be living, that is pointing to the living righteous and the living wicked. So let us read again the statement. The righteous and the wicked will still be living upon the earth in their mortal state. Men will be planting and building, eating and drinking, all unconscious that the final irrevocable decision has been pronounced in the sanctuary above. Do you believe this statement? Do you believe this vision that was shown by God to Sister White? Before focusing first to March 27, 2021, we need to analyze first the great controversy 490 because it is judgment of the living. By which both of them, the living righteous and the living wicked, will still be living upon the earth in their mortal state. Remember, when this irrevocable decision had been pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary, there are two prominent absolute facts that we need to consider. Number one, the righteous are still in their mortal state. That statement cannot be applied to the wicked because immortality will never be granted to the wicked. And second, at that time, all the righteous are unconscious that the final irrevocable decision has already pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary. Brethren, if we will study the prophecy, there are only two times by which the irrevocable decision will be pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary. First, to the living righteous first fruits. Second, to the living righteous second fruits, the great multitude. But God make a clear distinction, because when the irrevocable decision will be pronounced to the general clause of provision, at that time, Jesus Christ will lay off his priestly attire and clothe himself with the most kingly robes. Now let us read Early Writings 281. Early Writings, page 281. Then I saw Jesus lay off his priestly attire and clothe himself with his most kingly robes. You see, brothers and sisters? So it cannot be the vision in volume 2, page 190 and 191, because at that time, Jesus Christ will lay off his priestly attire and clothe himself with the garments of vengeance, volume 2, 190. And second, in Early Writings, page 281, when the irrevocable decision will be pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary, all the great multitude are already in the premillennial kingdom. No longer in their mortal state, because no one can inherit the kingdom of God in their mortal state. Now let us read the statement given by Alonzo Jones, that no one could inherit God's kingdom in their mortal state. They must be immortalized first. Since that passage is very important, you need always to make a mark so that you could easily locate the passage. So let us read, brothers and sisters, the statement given by the voice inspiration, and it is quoted in the Bible. The Apostle Paul says, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Men in their mortal state will not and cannot inherit the kingdom of God. And there are only two ways by which immortality will be granted: by resurrection and by translation. So, it is very important, brothers and sisters, to have a clear distinction with that two events. The irrevocable decision that will be pronounced to the church, the description is, the righteous are still in their mortal state. And second, Jesus Christ will clothe himself with the garments of vengeance. Garments of vengeance. But when the irrevocable decision will be pronounced to the general cause of provision, the saints' immortality was already granted. Immortality. No longer in their mortal state. And second, at that time, Jesus Christ will clothe his most kingly robes. Most kingly robes. So that is very plain, brothers and sisters. The definite distinction between the one and the other. That's why BTO says in 2TG24:23, let us be God's real people, logical thinkers, and not bait hunters. Now, would you think in the general clause of provision, when the irrevocable decision will be pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary. The 144,000 and the great multitude, and also those who have been resurrected, Daniel 12:2 and Ezekiel 37, all of them in premillennial kingdom, they were still in their mortal state. Think it thoroughly. And second, would you think they were already in God's premillennial kingdom and they were unconscious? They knew nothing? By which at that time, God's people, their hearts had been operated. I would like to read the statement of Alonzo Jones. That is not the writings of Alonzo Jones. Happened this. The passage is, we quoted several times, and now, brothers and sisters, what we need to do is concentrate the statement in the great controversy. So let's read the statement written by Alonzo Jones. Make a remark or mark that passage. So the time when we quote that passage, you will no longer have a hard time to locate. Jesus said the saints will be rewarded at the resurrection of the just. Luke 14 verse 14. The resurrection of the just takes place when Christ himself returns to the earth. 1 Thessalonians 4:15, 17. But we know that, of course, Alonzo Jones, Sister Wina, and Wagoner, they have no idea concerning the premillennial kingdom. But the important part of that part saying that, and they cannot inherit it before the resurrection. So those who died under the third angel's message, Daniel 12, Ezekiel 37, when they will be resurrected, immortality will be granted and they will inherit that premillennial kingdom. And also the 144,000 and the great multitude. And it says, they cannot inherit it before the resurrection, for Paul says that flesh and blood, man in a mortal state, cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Neither that corruption inherit incorruption. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 50. Now let us go back again. The great controversy 490. And then, see to yourself the statement given, because it is not difficult to understand. So let's read the great controversy, 490. The righteous and the wicked will still be living, so it cannot be pointing to the righteous who were already dead, because will still be living. And besides, B.T. Hotep declared clearly that this is pointing to the judgment of the living. Great controversy. Right? One symbolic code, number 8, page 10. One symbolic code, number 8, page 10. It says, the judgment of the living. Great controversy, 490. So this is judgment of the living. Now let us read again, the great controversy 490. The righteous and the wicked will still be living upon the earth in their mortal state. So whether wicked or righteous, both of them are still in their mortal state. Men will be planting and building, eating and drinking, all without any exemption, all unconscious that the final irrevocable decision has been pronounced in the sanctuary above. Do you believe this statement? Do you believe this vision? Do you believe this declaration? All unconscious. But if you are faithful, if you are honest, if you are sincere, you yourself know your own heart, who you are. Then you have nothing to worry. Because in that statement, although the righteous are unconscious to the fact that the irrevocable decision has already pronounced, but the fact is that since they are righteous, their names have been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life. That is why here in 1TG, 1TG number 30, page 19. 1TG number 30, page 19. And the quotation is Isaiah 4 verse 3. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. Now, before reading the commentary given here in 1TG 30, page 19, let us read verse 1TG number 6, page 38. The same verse that had been quoted, it says, Isaiah 4 verse 3, and it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. Look at the commentary given by the shepherd's rod. Only the holy ones, those whose names are left written in the book, escape the destruction that falls upon the wicked in the church. Only they constitute the remnant, the ones that are left. So Isaiah 4 verse 3 is pointing to the bookwork in the heavenly sanctuary. Left written in the book, the remnants. Now here in 1TG number 30, page 19, this verse clearly shows that while none of the wicked in the church will survive the purification, yet none of the righteous will perish. I would like to repeat again, my dear brothers and sisters. We preach only what is written. What is written in the vision of Sister White? It says, when the final irrevocable decision will be pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary above, all the righteous are unconscious to that absolute fact. They did not know. But since they are righteous, according to the shepherd's rod, Isaiah 4 verse 3 is pointing to the blotting out of names in the heavenly sanctuary. And whose names to be blotted out? All the impenitent sinners. All the unrepentant sinners. And God cannot be mistaken. Would you think God will blot the names? While that names on the earth, he or she is a repentant sinner? Think it thoroughly. So brothers and sisters, we only proclaim what is the program in the heavenly sanctuary. But we did not know who are they. We did not know who are they, the 144,000. The names that had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life. 100%. The righteous mentioned there, by which they did not know, is the first fruits, not the first of the first fruits. Because it is the first of the first fruits who will inform the first fruits. I would like to read to you this reading in 11 Symbolic Code, number 12, page 7. It is concerning Matthew 24, right? From verse 45 up to verse 50. Now let us read the statement here in 11 Symbolic Code, number 12, page 7. If no one is to know the day and hour until the Lord comes, then how could the servant be aware of that day and the hour? But what coming mentioned here in Matthew 24? Let us read 2SR 184. 2SR 184. It says, Matthew 24, verse 36 and 50, reading 2SR 184. Matthew 24, verse 36 and 50 are descriptions of the same event. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. Matthew 25, verse 13. This has reference to the time of the judgment and not of his coming to earth. So what is Matthew 24? Reference to the time of the judgment in the heavenly sanctuary. And the voice of inspiration says, if no one is to know, it says, 11 Symbolic Code, number 12, page 7. If no one is to know the day and hour until the Lord comes, then how could this servant be aware of the day and the hour? Do you see that one statement seems to contradict the other? Do you see that one statement seems to contradict the other? No one knows the hour, the day. Therefore, God's people must be ready for the event to occur at almost any time. And if this servant does not faithfully perform his duties, then when the Lord is about to come, that servant will not be aware of it. Is that not how you understand these two statements? Up to a certain time, God's people do not know the day and the hour, but if they continue to receive meat in due season, a day will come when this servant is going to be made aware of that hour of that day. But for sure, that is midnight, because Christ's illustrations are perfect. Track number 3, page 65. And that is the midnight cry. And what is the midnight cry? When Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place, let us read the statement in 2SR 181. It says, the midnight cry was first proclaimed prior to 1844, and the coming of the bridegroom was Christ coming to the most holy place in the heavenly sanctuary for the investigative judgment of the saints. What is the midnight cry? Christ coming, or the coming of the bridegroom is Christ coming to the most holy place. But what is the parable? When Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place, The parable is very, very clear. Both the wise virgins and the foolish virgins are asleep. So what does it mean? The same with the vision of Sister White. They were unconscious because when Jesus Christ will return to the most holy place, He is already bringing the names of the 144,000. Those names that had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life, indicating that the blotting out of names was already finished when Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place. But when Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place, the wise virgins are still asleep. That is in the parable. Now, I would like to read first here in 2SR, page 241. It says here, therefore, the prophecy by Enoch commenced its fulfillment in 1844, at which time the Lord came with the names and records of those who were sleeping in the grave. And when the investigation of the dead is finished, then He comes with the names of the living saints, first with the 144,000. So when Jesus Christ will return to the most holy place, He is already bringing the names of the 144,000. And in the vision of Sister White, at that time, the 144,000 were not yet sealed. So that is very plain. Brothers and sisters, the sealing, the bookwork, the first aspect of the judgment is in the heavenly sanctuary. So that illustration in the Bible, in Revelation chapter 7, that the angel is waving something up and down in his hand. Let us read Revelation chapter 7, verse 2 and 3. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their hands. But in the vision of Sister White, it says, the angel is waving something in his hand, and that is pointing to the names that had been left. Now let us read here in Early Writings, page 38. I saw four angels with a work to do on the earth, and were on their way to accomplish it. Jesus was clothed with priestly garments. So this is the time by which Jesus Christ clothed with priestly garments. He gazed in pity on the remnant, then raised his hands, and with a voice of deep pity cried, my blood, Father, my blood, my blood, my blood. Then I saw an exceeding bright light come from God, who sat upon the great white throne, and was shed all about Jesus. Then I saw an angel with a commission from Jesus, swiftly flying to the four angels, who had a work to do on the earth, and waving something up and down in his hand. And that thing that is waving up and down in his hand, that is the scroll, the names of the 144,000 that had been left written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and they need to be protected according to this vision. Now let us read again the statement. It says, hold, hold, waving something up and down in his hand, and crying with a loud voice, hold, 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 until the servants of God are sealed in their foreheads. No one would deny the fact that this is pointing to the 144,000. Then it says, I asked my accompanying angel the meaning of what I heard and what the four angels were about to do. He said to me that it was God that restrained the powers, that he gave his angels charge over things on the earth, that the four angels had a power from God to hold the four winds, and that they were about to let them go. But while their hands were loosening, and the four angels were about to blow, the merciful eye of Jesus gazed on the remnant that were not sealed. You see, gaze on pity on the remnant that were not sealed. And he raised his hands to the Father and pleaded with him that he had spilled his blood for them. Then another angel was commissioned to fly swiftly to the four angels and bid them hold until the servants of God were sealed with the seal of the living God in their foreheads. You see, why is it that they are called remnant? At the time, because they were not yet sealed. Because it points out to the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. B.T. Hotter says in 1SR, page 102, what constitutes the remnant? The definition of remnant is that which is left after the separation or removal. Of course, it could not be applied to destruction because there is no destruction not until the 144,000 living saints on earth will be sealed and protected. But at that time, they are already called remnant in spite of the fact that they were not yet sealed, according to the vision of Sister Ride. Why is it that they are called remnant? Because the blotting out of names were already finished. So, remnant after the removal of the names of the wicked, and that 144,000, their names had been retained in the Lamb's book of life, but in the earth, they were not yet sealed. I think it is not difficult to understand the vision. Brethren, to repeat again, let us investigate. Because in this study, 100% without any doubts, those names that had been left written in the Lamb's Book of Life, they will respond to this message. And one of the absolute fact and absolute proof that such a one, his name or her name had been blotted out because they will oppose this message. That is the reality. And we will show to you on the next episode. Brothers and sisters, what is the purpose after such removal of the names of the wicked and the names of the righteous had been left? What is the purpose? Well, I would like to read to you two passages and we will continue on our next episode. 2TG number 9, page 3. Inspiration, we see, I would like to read the verse, Isaiah 40, verse 1 and 2. Comfort ye, my people, saith your God. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem, and cry unto her, that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned, for she hath received of the Lord's hand double for all her sins. It says, inspiration, we see, is her urging someone to comfort God's people. You see, urging someone. There is an urgent message, and God is urging someone. And of course, that someone must be God's messenger. Inspiration, we see, is her urging someone to comfort God's people. They are to be told. Would you think God need to raise a messenger to tell the righteous, to tell the 144,000 that their iniquity had been pardoned, that their names, the blotting out of names were already finished? If they knew it, it is illogical. The mere fact, it says that they are to be told because they did not know. It says, they are to be told, not their warfare will be accomplished. No. Not that their warfare will be accomplished, but their warfare is accomplished. What does it mean? Would you think this message will be proclaimed when we reach the kingdom? The warfare mentioned here is that we survive our names had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life. It says here that their warfare is accomplished, that their iniquity is pardoned. And Sister White says, that event that will be pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary, that our iniquity is pardoned, pointing to the 144,000, it would be on the last and final great day of atonement. Now let us read Testimonies for the Church, Volume 5. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 5, 472. Zechariah's vision of Joshua and the angel applies with a peculiar force to the experience of God's people in the closing up of the great day of atonement. Who is Joshua? The high priest. Now, I would like to show to you, in the Levitical system, it is only the high priest that will enter to the most holy place. Then, for 10 days, the high priest is in the most holy place. And after the Day of Atonement, the high priest will come out in the most holy place. October 11. And after the high priest will come out, he will inform all Israelites who are they that had been pardoned and who are they that had not been pardoned. You see, in that illustration, it's easy to understand that that messenger is antitypical Joshua, the high priest, and God informed Joshua that the blotting out of names is already finished. And the names of the righteous, 144,000, had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life. And then, there is a divine pronouncement that their iniquity had been pardoned. And God commanded Joshua to inform God's people. And it says, it is a comforting message to the righteous, to the 144,000. Otherwise, the Bible will not say, comfort ye my people, if it is not a comforting message. Or in other words, to the ears of the righteous, the penitent sinners who faithfully sigh and cry. Or in other words, God already informed them, your past sighing and crying, you completely done your work. And the result of your faithfulness, your names had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life. So that is the very message here. Why is it that the 144,000 need to be informed? Because according to the prophecy, here in 1 TG number 36, let me read to you. 1 TG number 36, page 3. The same verse. Comfort ye my people. 1 TG 36, page 3. Isaiah 40, verse 1 and 2. Isaiah 40, verses 1 and 2. Then it says, verse 2 leaves no doubt that inspiration is speaking to a people in the latter days, the days in which the warfare, pilgrimage, and captivity of God's weary people are accomplished, having reached double for their sin and rebellion, their iniquity is pardoned, and are now soon to be delivered. So that is one of the comforting messages, because it says, soon to be delivered. After the blotting out of names, what is the next event? Deliverance. And God commanded His messenger, inform the righteous that since they faithfully perform their task, they sigh and cry in sincerity and in honesty, their warfare is accomplished. Their iniquity is pardoned. When? On the Day of Atonement, in the last and final great Day of Atonement. It says here in Volume 5, 475, it says, I love so much this statement. And Volume 5, page 475, and the remnant, why is it that they are called remnant? Because their names had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life. And the remnant are not only pardoned and accepted, but honored. Can you imagine, brothers and sisters, the occurrence in the heavenly sanctuary? And then it says, in the upper portion, their names are retained in the Lamb's Book of Life, enrolled among the faithful of all ages. It says, their names are retained in the Lamb's Book of Life, enrolled among the faithful of all ages. So, brothers and sisters, we will elaborate this life and death matter, and hoping that this message will find a responding chord to your heart. We did not know who are they whose names had been blotted out, and we did not know whose names that had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life. But as far as the shepherd's rod is thus concerned, those names that had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life, this message is a comforting message. They will gladly accept this message, because there is a responding chord. And it is the Spirit of Jesus Christ that will put into their hearts and into their mind. Therefore, we have nothing to worry, because God knoweth all of them that are His. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 19. So we'll continue the subject, brethren, and hoping that the good Lord will bless us and would help us. Thank you very much for listening. May the good Lord bless you and have a beautiful, wonderful evening.